Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. We had Lieutenant Governor Kehoe on last week, so full opinion maker panel. We had to get some interesting folks, so we start with Mike Colona, former state legislator. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Tracy McCreery, friend of the show from St. Louis County. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
First time on the show, Republican rising star. I think you've made a lot of Republicans happy that you decided to run for state rep in Jeff County. Mary Elizabeth Coleman, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
And Rocky Miller from down at the lake. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Let's talk about right this week. Mike Pence come back to town for Josh Hawley. Do you think that there's folks that said, well, maybe the Hawley campaign, he was obviously a little predisposed with his official job the last few months, but with the Supreme Court pick to talk about now, Mike Pence coming back, is Hawley getting the momentum?
I think so. I really do. I mean, it's great having Mike Pence coming in town, the vice president. As I was saying a little earlier to some people off camera, I said, I've actually met Mike Pence about 4 or 5 years ago. He actually came to Camden County and flew into town and talked to us for a little bit. Got pictures with him, so neat guy.
Was he out on the lake or just where?
No. He just came in Camden County Republican Club and decided to give us a little talk.
I think I'd respect it more if he sent him out on the lake. But so Josh Hawley, how does he do in Jefferson County? You got to win Jefferson County to win
Absolutely.
the state. How's he do?
He's very popular. So at the doors, people are saying a lot about him. I think that the momentum is certainly coming. In the last probably 3 or 4 weeks, we've started to see signs to catch up with the other Republican candidates who are really kind of off the field.
Mike Colona, Josh Hawley, Claire McCaskill, he's a statewide elected official. They're both going to be fully funded. Claire McCaskill is a great politician. Does Donald Trump's popularity, though, how do you run against that?
Well, I think there's a variable out there that we haven't talked about, and that is Governor Greitens. If you remember, there's a lot of folks out there, a lot of Republicans who aren't happy with Josh Hawley because of the way he treated Eric Greitens. So, I'm not passing judgment on if what he did was right or if what he did was wrong. But just a month ago, folks calling into radio shows, you run into people in the courthouse, on the streets, they were mad at the way that Josh Hawley was treating a fellow Republican.
That only enforces laws on Democrats?
Well, no. I mean, I thought I thought he was doing his job, but I'm not a partisan hack. So, but there's some of that feeling out there that you should kind of take care of your own. And we wanted an outsider. We brought in an outsider, and then you brought him down. What's wrong with you? I think there's some of that undercurrent still out there that might actually benefit Senator McCaskill.
It's weird. Do you think folks that wanted Josh Hawley to only prosecute Democrats vote for Claire McCaskill?
Well, I think Claire McCaskill will win ultimately because she's kind of in the middle of the road. She's ranked kind of number 50 of the 100 senators as like between liberal and liberal and conservative. So she's a good fit for Missouri. But I think, back to Hawley appearing with the vice president, I think some might consider it gutsy. I think it was not very smart because Pence's chief of staff, Nick Ayers, has been accused of campaign finance, breaking the laws dealing with campaign finance, including trying to hide the identity of donors. And I think Hawley really shouldn't appear so palsy with somebody that he might have to prosecute.
But he's not going to prosecute Mike Pence for that.
Well, but it's the vice president's chief of staff. I just think it shows no separation, and it shows that he's not able to kind of separate the political from the professional.
Rocky Miller, you're a good politician. Claire McCaskill is a good politician. Is Claire McCaskill stylistically more Missouri than her voting record, though?
She used to live in my district, believe it or not. Yeah, she has a house in my district, and so we know quite a bit about Claire and the senator. And yes, on occasion, she seems like she moves towards the center. The problem is when it comes to important votes, she's not there for us. And so from a rural perspective, Claire just is going to lose horribly in the rural areas.
But Claire McCaskill, every Democrat loses horribly in the rural areas. Claire McCaskill loses maybe not quite so horribly as most. That's always been a key to her success, right?
Well, I mean, brilliant move the last time around by picking her opponent. That was brilliant. That's the best political move I've seen ever. Now, I'm not that big of a politician guy, but that was fantastic. And it made her job very, very easy. I don't think her job is going to be that easy this time.
Mary Elizabeth Coleman, though, stylistically, I think Claire McCaskill fits Missouri very, very well. Sometimes her voting record doesn't. There was an article about some of her staff members in an elevator. You never know how true that kind of stuff is, saying she's not voting for the president's nominee to the Supreme Court. I think that could be where Josh Hawley, maybe that's his trump card.
Well, certainly at the doors, I'm hearing again and again, Jefferson County is still very much supporting Trump, very much supporting Josh Hawley. I think that it showed a lot of guts for him to say, we're going to do a thorough investigation, and that's going to carry through. So I'm not convinced that it's going to be a big problem for him, that his style is a little more buttoned up. I think that when you get to the substance, he represents our area a lot better.
Do you really think that someone that only wants an attorney general to prosecute Democrats is going to vote for Democrats? That seems a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to fit.
Josh Hawley, the guy I think has shown a lot of integrity. I think folks that watch the situation up close thought he was handled himself very well. I wonder how that translates, though. Do you think folks at the end of the day say he was pretty tough on Eric Greitens, and does that help him in the general?
Well, I think he doesn't have enough experience for real Missourians to base anything on. You know, he's been campaigning. He's not really focused in on his job as Attorney General. So I think that people are going to opt for someone with more experience and life experience.
Well, the guy's a smart guy. He knows his stuff.
Elephant in the room, no pun intended, but here's the bottom line. Folks in Jefferson County, folks in Poplar Bluff have to be careful, because Josh Hawley is the new type of Republican. The Republican that doesn't go around to Republican events and meet people and politic. He's a type of Republican that gets picked by the party elite, who gets funded by the party elite. I don't know if you caught the editorial from the Franklin County Republican Central Committee saying, are you kidding me? I mean, maybe we would have endorsed Josh Hawley, but we were told from on high that this is the person that we're supposed to support. So getting back to who's really more Missouri, is it Josh Hawley, who can say, look at me, I clerked in the Supreme Court, and I'm a God-fearing Christian who's conservative? Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Or Senator McCaskill, who actually has ridden a bus from town to town and used her own money
Before
to
everybody
fly
says
around.
it, she wrote the plane
Yeah,
thing. We
okay,
get it.
come on.
But she,
Yeah,
she
but
obviously has
but
a
the
bus.
point is, she's reaching out. The point is, she's going to Poplar Bluff.
She
The
does.
point is,
Hey,
she's going
I
to
don't think you
Pictorado.
can discredit Senator McCaskill on that. But let's talk about maybe the thing she's really running against. That's Donald Trump. Maybe the worst week of the Trump presidency was this week. It was not a good week for the president, not a good look. But still, 19 points. And the parts of Missouri I see, they may love him more than when he ran.
Well, you know, the past is history, but I think the performance or bad performance of the president since he's been in office is firing up people that have never wanted to vote before, especially in these midterms. So I think we're going to see a surge of people that are just really, really frustrated and haven't been on the voting radar.
Former Representative Colona, you know how to win people over. I went to 4th Street Bowl in Joplin this week, interviewed Ron Richard. One of the people he spoke very glowingly about was you, working with you when he was Speaker. It is an interesting thing. How do you go to a door and convince somebody that voted for Donald Trump to vote for Claire McCaskill?
You know, good question. And I remember former Governor Nixon was asked that question at a continuing legal education thing that we were both teaching. And he goes, you know what folks have to remember is that the same folks that voted for Donald Trump voted for me. True. And it's all about taking an interest in what's important to you. You know, hey Scott, how you doing? My name is Mike. I'm running for office. You know, it's an empty seat. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what's going on and what's important to you? I listen to you. I engage you. I remind you that I want to look out for you, that I'm here for you, and that I'm going to do my job. And I think if you make that connection with folks, and if you take an interest in what's going on and let them know, remind them that they're important, that's how you can win.
People forget no one's ever got more votes for anything in the world than Jay Nixon in the state of Missouri. Rocky Miller, that was not a good look for the president. It was probably the worst week. I mean, sometimes you read, I almost think this is where the problem with the media, they make everything he does this big 5-alarm fire. This was a mistake.
Well, I tell you what, I've got to where I almost ignore it anymore. I just do. I mean, I turn it off because one thing happens, you're like, oh, well, he's done. This is the worst thing in the world. And then it just goes away. You know, the next thing happens, you know, and it goes on, and then he's up and he's down. You know, he controls his own media. So by doing that, he controls a lot of things. So I think, you know, we'll sit and wait and see. He's already made some mea culpas on those, and so we'll see where he ends up.
Couples.
Huh?
Rare ones. He doesn't usually apologize, but he has.
He does.
Probably rightly so.
The irony is, he would have been fired if he was working for a private company pulling the shenanigans he's pulled.
Oh, he'd been fired multiple times. Or that, I mean, Well, I can tell you the benefit of owning your own company. But Mary Elizabeth Coleman, that was a bad week for the president. Even in Jefferson County, I think folks that still love him in spite of the mistake this week.
I do think that it's in spite of all of the things. I mean, every week it's the next big thing, and you couldn't be more right that everything is a 5-alarm fire, and so nobody listens to it anymore. And certainly the news has been turned off, and they've completely shut out
That's
from
a dangerous
anything
place
that's
for
doing
society.
it. It's not. It's not where we want to be.
It's almost like the Post-Dispatch and Steve Stinger. Like, you don't really buy any of it because every day they say it's the worst thing
You
in the
just
world.
stop
turn it
reading
off.
the article.
Yeah.
That's right. And so I think we're in that same spot. But at the doors, what I hear people say, somebody earlier, Tracy, before we were starting, you were talking about how you feel like a counselor at the doors telling people it's going to be okay. You know, my experience is people are fired up and they're mad because no matter what happens, they feel like the president doesn't get a good shot. And so then when there is something that needs to be dealt with and dealt with as a unified group, there's nobody there to do it.
Let's talk about a race that maybe hasn't got the attention it deserves. State Auditor's race. You made an endorsement this week, Rocky Miller, of David Wassinger.
Yes. David and I go back a ways. His brother-in-law actually lives in my district, and we got to know each other. And so through that relationship, I got to where I really got to know the man. And I think he's a good, honest person, and I think he'll do a great job.
I'm starting to think your district is like the Kevin Bacon of Missouri. There's 6 degrees of separation from
Everybody tends to live there. Yeah, yeah.
The state auditor's race, it's something that I'm sure that you're seeing other people on the doors helping different folks run. Paul Kurtman, state legislator, is running. Susan McDowell's running. And also Kevin Roach, Alderman. Sandra McDowell. Tell me who wins. You're actually talking to people on doors.
Listen, I think that David has such a big war chest and ability to get his message out. It's going to be hard for anybody else. I haven't met all the candidates. I look forward to going to. They're doing a good job going to forums all across the state. So I'll be at one this weekend. I'm looking forward to hearing them all make their pitch.
He's lucky his wife didn't run. This interesting race. Nicole Galloway comes in, gets appointed, never ran statewide before. I'm not sure that you find that many people that think she's done a bad job.
Oh, no, she's doing exactly what an auditor needs to do, which is she is an independent watchdog. She's gone after as many Democrats as Republicans, and she had a really, really good fundraising quarter. So she's just doing a great job. She's a CPA, certified fraud examiner, high energy. I mean, she's a great fit for Missouri, and the only Democrat in state office. And voters want to see the auditor, the watchdog, in the opposite party of those in power. It's just a logical yin and yang.
Voters voted for that, but Jay Nixon didn't do that. He appointed a Democrat, right?
Right. But Auditor Schweik did a great job. I think Nicole has really walked in his footsteps at like a lot of auditors before, where you can't really tell what party they are because they're so independent and are just doing their jobs.
Tell me how if you're in the campaign with the whiteboard, how does Nicole Galloway win if Claire McCaskill loses?
Well, they're running independently of each other, so I don't see them connected to each other at all. Very different.
State's history, though, when it's the cycle or the U.S. Senate race is at the top of the ticket, that auditor's race has been tied to that more often than not. What's the case for one of them winning and one of them losing?
Well, I think Nicole just does what she keeps doing, and that is, hey, look, I'm an auditor. Okay, forget about the letter behind my name. I've audited Republicans. I've audited Democrats. I've asked for charges to be filed against Republicans. I've asked for charges to be filed against Democrats. And you know what? As far as that Supreme Court pick goes, that ain't my gig. Let me focus on making sure we balance our budget.
Is it a cross part, though? The lieutenant governor is actually in the administration doing things for the governor. It makes sense he should be appointed by the governor. And I think Jay Nixon's appointment of Nicole Galloway shows gubernatorial appointments, that's been a pretty successful one by all accounts. Do you think they may be beating their head against the wall to continue to sue over this?
This is where the lawyer in me takes over and the politician kind of takes a back seat. I agree with Judge Beadham's decision that the Constitution allows the governor to appoint a lieutenant governor. Now, I might not like it because if you think about the succession plan, and if God forbid something happens to the governor, boom, the lieutenant governor takes over. That's somebody that should be elected by the people of the state of Missouri, not appointed. But I do believe he's got the legal authority to do it.
We're going to be right back. We're going to talk about the legal authority of Rocky Miller's Twitter account after this.
In my state of Oklahoma, since it's become a right-to-work state, we've lost tens of thousands of jobs, and wages have gone down. I lost my job of 36 years.
Census Bureau and U.S. Department of Labor reports show that in right-to-work states, families make over $8,700 less per year, but CEOs make 361 times the average worker.
Prop A in Missouri is not what they're trying to sell you.
All across Missouri, our new car and truck dealers are building strong local economies. When you buy a car or truck in Missouri, you're helping to support over 20,000 Missouri families who rely on the auto industry for good-paying local jobs. You're also helping fund our communities, schools, first responders, and our roads because dealers generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Missouri's automobile dealers have been the foundation of our communities for generations and for generations to come. The Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, the heart of Missouri.
At Ameren, Missouri, we know what light can do. It draws people together and chases monsters away. And if you shine it in the right direction, it will light the path for the next generation, showing them what their tomorrow could look like and spotlighting the possibilities that lay in front of them. Investing in our community by lighting the way forward. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back this week in Missouri Politics. Opinion maker panel for the whole show. We got him to stick around. We're going to pay him double. Mike Colona, thank you for sticking around. Representative Tracy McCreery from St. Louis County, thank you. Mayor Elizabeth Coleman, I hear the word rising star every time I hear your name. Thank you for being here. Rocky Miller, the Twitter account of the week. You fired off a tweet that started off a series of events that ended with a legislative hearing this week that was the most. These off-season budget hearings are normally boring and nothing happens. That was not the case here. What was this firestorm about that started from your phone?
Well, what we had is there was a veto on a time-critical diagnostic for stroke victims and heart attack victims, and so it was really something that I had liked to see in the budget. It was kind of conservative too. And the fact that it just said, listen, this is just sort of a carrot on a stick. All the training and stuff you're going to pay for. You're going to do all the work. We're going to do this small amount of money to make sure that you get designated as a certain type of stroke center and stuff. So I thought, great, this is a good, nice way to do it. And then, boom, it gets vetoed. And that really hit home with me.
You're a stroke survivor yourself, correct?
I am a stroke survivor, and I was misdiagnosed. Now, I don't want to go into a great amount of detail, but, I laid around for 3 days with a stroke, and then finally got to a level 2 diagnostic center, and they got me. They figured out what was going on and stuff. And unfortunately, some people may say this is obvious, but I lost a fairly significant part of my brain, and now the one thing is they say that now completely qualifies me for higher office, but I don't know how
there you go.
Works.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Representative Tracy McCreery, it was interesting. I think the amount of money was not that significant, but it was almost as though the budget chairman, Scott Faughn, was sending some kind of smoke signal that he's going to hold Parsons' feet to the fire too.
Yeah, he didn't just send a smoke signal. He was very, very angry, and it was $153,000, and it can mean the difference between life and death. And what was interesting is it wasn't Democrats causing an uproar over this. This was Governor Parsons' own party, his own leadership within the Republican Party that was angry about the veto. So he's really having to clean up a lot of messes that he's inherited, but this was one he created himself. And I think this week was an indication that the honeymoon is over for the new governor.
Interesting.
So I think your watchers here know that I've been out of politics for a little bit. I've just been practicing law, and for those of us on the outside looking in, all right, what to use the analogy you guys use, we didn't really expect Governor Greitens' team to send smoke signals to Governor Parsons' team on what to do and what not to do. But Governor Parsons' team only had a very small amount of time to review a ton of bills that were left on his desk. So you've got some fiscal hawks out there who I think were just kind of looking to maybe cut some money somewhere. And it's like, look, this is $150,000 and ain't that much. It's probably for one institution. Let's just strike it. And then you have the uproar from the folks that made sure that money got in there to help folks. I mean, let's be real, in rural Missouri.
That's an interesting part of this. The governor's staff comes in and says, look, we figured out a way to use private money to get this done for a year from the existing hospitals. But I thought the part that really set the meeting off was when the head of the Department of Health comes in and says, well, even though you cut it, we'll just find a different spot, which is if you want to tick off a legislator.
That's right, absolutely. Well, so I'm not a politician, I'm a mom, I'm an attorney, and that's the kind of thing that gets us mad, right? When people say, we have tight budgets, we have to work within constraints, and then you cut a budget and they say, oh, no, we'll just find the money somewhere else. Well, either there is or isn't money appropriated for a certain project. And I thought that Scott did a great job standing up and saying, listen, that's not what we're going to do. And I think it'll hopefully be addressed in veto session.
Rocky Miller, you're a pragmatist and a businessman. Governors do this every time you guys leave town. Usually, Governor Greitens was different. He wanted you to come back, but normally the happiest person to see you guys leave town is the governor. He loses 197 co-pilots when you guys leave town. So
Some critics.
there you go. But in this case, you're not supposed to admit that's what you do, right?
Well, I kind of get that, but here's the problem that really bothers me about the whole thing is it was a mistake. The director admitted it was a mistake, and it should have not happened. So here's what you do. You go, oops, I made a mistake. Ask us to correct it. We'll correct it. We'll move on from there. I'm a little concerned when the leader of our state does not come out and say, I made a mistake. Because believe it or not, Scott, I've made mistakes before, and yes, and I've admitted to them too. And so,
do you think that part of this is he kept all of the department heads? That's obviously worked out in a lot of areas. Is that worked out here?
I think it makes sense. I think that there's strong leadership there. But, the thing that is more concerning to me that I caught in one of the articles about this fiasco was that they were really doing it to try to squeeze some more money from hospitals to pay for something. And this was a way to force the discussion, to get the discussion going. And that bothers me more. If they're using our budget
Sounds like an
process.
Excuse, right?
Yeah, well, it's wrong. And it's a slap in the face to all the people that work so hard on the budget.
You thought the days of Sarah Stillman having to run interference for department heads was over, but she had to go to this one this week. And let's talk about Clean Missouri, proposition that some folks put together. Rob Schaff and Tashara Jones both advocating for the same thing. It cuts campaign limits, $2,000, $2,500 per election. It changes how the redistricting process works, starts with a state demographer. I think something called Clean Missouri has a good chance of passing right now. Should it?
Well, first off, it will pass, plain and simple.
And the two passed.
They're going to have a very easy campaign, clean up politics, and I think that theme is still alive and well. Should it pass? I think there's a little bit too much jammed into one initiative. You've got your campaign contribution limits. You've got the ban on lobbyist gifts. You've got a change in the way that we do our redistricting. My fear is that when Clean Missouri Initiative passes, it's going to do the same thing that our campaign contribution limits that we passed last time around has done, and that is, pardon my mouth, screw things up. If you want to know who's giving money to who, then you need to have full disclosure, and from my perspective, give as much money as you want. When you start limiting how much money you can give, people are going to find ways around it, like dark money packs, and they're going to give money any other way they can. And then it gets harder and harder for us to track who's giving money to who.
Tracy McCreery, I had to call Sean Nicholson, who's been on this show many times. He's asked him, hey, how do you talk about this? He broke it down for me, but I do think there's a lot of things involved in Clean Missouri. It has multifaceted things. It's even got a provision to try to limit the PAC donations, but I've just never seen that work.
Well, I think it's going to work, and it's been run by people that know what they're doing, and it's focused on just the legislative branch. So there is frustration with all levels of government with some of these transparency and accountability issues, but I think what Clean Missouri is doing right is they're just focusing on legislative cleanup right now. And for those of us that want to see cleanup at other levels of government, that's for another day.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, I watch Democrats complain about David Humphreys. Now, you say what you will about David Humphreys. I disagree with him on things, agree with him on things. He is a very transparent person. Absolutely. I don't think you see him involved in some of these dark money things. I mean,
I think I saw a Holly commercial about that.
Well, there you go. But David, he is so transparent. He's in commercials.
Well, listen, my biggest problem with Clean Missouri is not some of the transparency concerns. I think we all want to make sure we can see what's happening and who's given money. My problem is with the redistricting. And under the auditor's office, what people don't realize is that these initiatives have happened in other states, have gone to a bipartisan commission. We don't have it involved in the same way. And so by doing just lost my train of thought. He's going here like this, and it's distracting me.
Look at Mike Colona.
I
love that she called you out. That is awesome. Well, you need a Democrat that'll call out Barklage when he's on here. Rocky Miller, there is a lot going on here.
More smoke signals? Is this what's happening?
There you go. Your move, Representative.
Well, I tell you what, ditto with what former Representative Colona said there for a lot of it, because in the old way you could see what was going on. I've never liked the restrictions. I don't like the restrictions we have now. I don't like the restrictions that are planned for Clean Missouri. It's freedom of speech. If you want to do that, fine. It's up there for everybody to see. I want to be able to see it, and we were able to see it. Now we can't. There's PACs everywhere now, and you can't tell what's going on. And that's a problem, and I knew that was going to happen, and I'm concerned about Clean Missouri too. And as far as the redistricting part too, come on. You know, obviously the other side of the aisle thinks it's been way unfair the way it's been done now, and this is an attempt to bring it back, swing the pendulum. I think the pendulum swings too far in this case, and I'm worried about it. But I also agree with you, it's going to pass.
Michael, that's my question. You're a simple country lawyer. I'm a simple hillbilly from West Butler County. Do people regret this when it passes?
I don't think so. I think the folks that are going to regret it are the political elite, because they're going to be frustrated with the contribution limits. They're going to find ways around it. But the whole redistricting thing, no. I think it's going to play out well.
You really want the auditor's office to become a political football?
So again, the auditor's office is just kind of like the watchdog. They appoint somebody. The auditor doesn't rewrite the districts. They bring professionals in.
They use a professional demographer
Thank
who's
you.
not party affiliated. So
Tracy,
it will help eliminate gerrymandering, which Missourians have had it with that.
When these districts are drawn, I think geography gerrymanders Democrat districts. They're highly population dense. They're right on the state line. It's very hard to draw even districts with Republicans very sparsely populated out across the state and Democrats tightly compacted right on state lines. It just makes the geography of it challenging.
Well, I don't think it was set up to like make one party more powerful than the other. I agree there are challengers, but let a professional demographer take the first swipe at it before it goes to the appointed commission. That's all Clean Missouri is asking, is let someone who's a data person and not a political person take the first swipe.
You're in a competitive district. Does it change the dynamics and how much?
I don't think so, no. I don't think that Clean Missouri is going to make a big impact. I think that what's going to make a big impact in November is the way the senator's race goes. I think that that's a much bigger factor on the race.
With a minute left, Rocky Miller, who won the week?
Scott Fitzpatrick, budget chair, just killed it.
Your Twitter account set the fire. Who won the week?
Speaker-elect Haar had a huge fundraiser in Springfield, got a shout out from the Vice President of the United States today. That's got to be an amazing thing to have happen.
Doesn't happen every day. Who won the week?
No on Prop A. They've finally been able to hone a message that is easier for people to understand. It's a difficult topic, but when, hey, your pay is going to be cut by $8,600, most people get that.
Labor's on a roll. Who won the week?
I think both Senator Claire McCaskill and Auditor Nicole Galloway, they both had really, really strong fundraising quarters, and it shows just how committed they are to representing Missouri again.
I'll say Supreme Court Judge Zell Fisher. I think you're going to see, there's been critics of the Missouri plan on and off. I think you're going to see a pretty representative Missouri plan, and I think he may be taking some steps behind the scenes to make that happen. We hope that you'll be back for us speaking of the Missouri plan. You'll make a Missouri plan to watch us next week on This Week in Missouri Politics.
Brought to you by Spire, the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts, and Sterling Bank.